Tremors. Despite diplomatic talks in Gomel not producing a breakthrough, both Ukrainian and Russian delegations returned to their capitals for consultation, where Vladimir Medinsky, former cultural minister who led the Russian delegation, declared that the delegation found certain points where we can predict common positions. To help us review the start of day 6 of Russia's invasion and talk about Ukraine's prospective EU membership is Gana Bazilo, head of College of Europe Alumni Association in Ukraine, who is joining from Dublin, Ireland. Gana, thank you so much this morning for joining Global Tremors.
Thank you, Roger, and good morning, Europe. Unfortunately, we are joining under a very sad circumstances, really terrible circumstances. And I think that, like me, many of my fellow friends and people that I know live really from one message to another from our family and from our closed ones. My mom and my dad are currently in Kiev, and my heart is beating, and I cannot, of course, I try to control my emotions, but you cannot even imagine how difficult it is. My closest friends are there. They are staying in Kiev. They are barely sleeping, but they are trying to keep their calm, and they tell us all to keep calm. Nobody believed that this would happen, but it is happening. And I think that nowadays, everyone is trying to do something to help Ukraine. But first and foremost, what we can do is we need to stop the bombing, because this is the most important step that can protect people who are there now. That's why my reaction on yesterday I was, the only messages I was receiving from my friends in Kharkiv who were heavily bombed and in Kiev, are there any results of these negotiations? And we see that the bombs are continuing, so there are no results. The only result that that will be at least a first step is that when we stop hearing a bombing over our cities in Ukraine.
Gana, thank you so much for your opening statement. Like everybody who's been watching Global Tremors, everybody's just horrified at the escalation going on, especially in Kharkiv. And now, before Gana, we get to some of the major points, just a couple of big news items for our viewers out there. You know, it's been reported by New York Times and a lot of other media outlets that the Russian army is advancing on Kiev, with satellite images showing an armored convoy that is about 40 miles long. Gana, getting back to your original point about protecting the skies and Ukraine's request for a no-fly zone, early this morning, before getting on air, the Ukrainian armed forces reported that the EU will deliver more than 70 military jets to Ukraine, with these including 16 MiGs and 4 Sus from Bulgaria, 28 MiGs from Poland, and another 29 MiGs from Slovakia. Now, for everybody watching, those are still unconfirmed reports, but this is what's been tweeted out by the Ukrainian parliamentary Twitter account. In addition to financing, Gana, in case you missed it, the Ukrainian government has said that it plans to sell war bonds. And then just as we switch to Russia for 1 second, yesterday, in just an absolutely farcical performance that was worthy of an Oscar, yesterday in New York City, the Russian ambassador to the United Nations, Vasily Nebza, presented Moscow's take on the situation, which was, of course, riddled with errors, while at the same time, the US confirmed it was expelling 12 Russian diplomats. And Gana, right before we get to the content, the Russian economy took a total beating yesterday in the early days of the sanctions, where the ruble fell 20% to its lowest level ever. And Bank Europe, the country's largest lender, is facing failure and dropped about 70% in London, according to White House spokesperson Jen Psaki. And then, of course, across Russia, 411 people have been detained in 13 cities for anti-war protests. So again, we have the facts on the ground that have broken since we've come on air. Nobody expected the negotiations yesterday to be going, to have a breakthrough in Gomel. The Ukrainian request is immediately for a ceasefire. As they go back to their respective capitals, how do you feel as a Ukrainian right now that at least they're sitting at the table without preconditions?
I'm personally, I think that I'm very happy that the negotiations started, because in the very first day when President Zelensky was asking for negotiations and Moscow was silent, that was really worrying. So, of course, I understand that already that they are at the table. It's a big step forward. And I know perfectly that our leaders understand how urgent it is and how important it is, and I know that our leaders will be doing everything to protect their people. We felt a very strong support from our government, and as you know, that though many people reacted to Zelensky staying in Ukraine and not giving up, his support is really huge, and he and the armed forces on Ukraine are real heroes for us, for standing with us, with his people. So I think that I really believe in the negotiation process. I really believe that it can bring results, but the results needs to be soon.
Yeah, again, I mean, just before again, we appreciate you coming on under these very tough circumstances. And again, we all wake up here in Europe, taking for granted sometimes we're waking up without the sounds of air sirens and sleeping in bunkers. One thing I just want to return to is in yesterday's press conference with the Russian ambassador, he again stressed that the red lines for the Russian delegation included the demilitarization of Ukraine and just, again, the most farcical of offers, the denazification. From the Ukrainian perspective, it goes without saying that they want to stop the bombing immediately. They want to stop this chaos. But, how can they square a circle when these when these demands from Russia are just so untenable and so unrealistic to expect a Ukraine who is facing an assault to demilitarize?
These demands, as well as the pretext for invasion, are complete absurd. I'm personally a Russian-speaking person. My whole family is a Russian-speaking person. We do not, this is just ridiculous. I don't even want to go into details about how ridiculous it is. And also I have among my Russian friends, only two people actually spoke to me, saying that they also think that this is ridiculous, and they made posts that they were in Ukraine and they were speaking Russian and there was nothing happening to them. So this is absolutely ridiculous, and of course, in no way we cannot provide any kind of evidences that this is possible. So I think that these demands are just a complete bullshit.
Yeah, and again, I totally appreciate sort of how you're speaking with so emotionally, and it's just completely upsetting to see the position. But again, for everybody joining us on Global Tremors, yesterday in New York City, the Russian ambassador to the United Nations gave sort of Moscow's first public statement on it. And again, he made, just untenable claims about there being a prospective Ukrainian attack against Donetsk and Luhansk without providing any evidence, calling the reports of the civilian casualties in Kharkiv and abroad fake news, trying to deflect it and saying that this conflict actually could date back to as early as 2013 when there's a democratic revolution in Ukraine, and that sort of Moscow just can't accept that their installed puppet, could actually lose even by putting their foot on the scale. Do you have any comments to that, again, or do you want to get to something a little bit more optimistic, like a brighter and more European-oriented future for Ukraine?
I think that we've heard a lot of Russian speaking at the General Assembly, and what they say is a complete nonsense. And I think, and this has not been the first time that they say it. Ukraine has been in a war for 8 years, and for 8 years we're hearing this rhetoric, and it doesn't change. I really hope that all the sanctions that you mentioned, all the economic sanctions, all the actions that are being taken now by the governments, they will really help to change the perception of Russian government and Russian people to what is going on, and to bring them to a common sense that what they're saying is just needs to stop now. And of course, on the positive note, yesterday, President Zelensky signed a letter applying for the membership of the European Union. Today in the European Parliament, there will be a resolution on the situation in Ukraine, one of the provision of which is, of course, to start the procedure of granting Ukraine the candidate status. As a head of the College of Europe Alumni Association in Ukraine, we are a network of pro-European Europe graduated students, professionals, experts, and of course this has been our dream and goal. We all have been working on the European integration of Ukraine, but we could never imagine that it would come at such a high price. I mean, this is the highest price that European country paid for this membership. And I really hope that everyone in the European Union, all the citizens of the European Union, they will show solidarity with our membership the same way they're showing now solidarity, accepting our people in their countries and offering them help.
Again, before we get to sort of the EU issue, I just want to return on one issue for all of our viewers here on Global Tremors. You know, we've spoken to everybody in Kharkiv, Odessa, Vilnius, Olive Cross. We've spoken a lot about the economic situation and how, you know, clearly this was a premeditated attack by President Putin and his military, and that they had been preparing for this for some time as they had put together a $600 billion reserve fund to support the ruble and fight inflation. Just again, to put everything in context for everybody, and we're going to have somebody coming on maybe today, later this week, an economic specialist, but just to sort of show the scope of, you know, the economic sanctions that are biting right now. Of that $600 billion, the collective sanctions from the European Union, the United States, Canada, and Great Britain has frozen access of the Russian central bank to 300 billion of this. So I think it's very important for everybody to take into consideration that Putin, who had this idea of how he would be able to handle the economic fallout from this, has half of it wiped off of his plate immediately, which is something I don't think he expected, in addition to airspace being closed and all of the cultural issues going on. So again, as you said, let's get back to the European Union membership. The photo was just unbelievable in his military fatigue. There was no reservation saying we are fighting for the European for you right now and that we need to grant it. A couple of quick quotes before I get your opinion on it. President Zelensky's signature came a day after European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen declared that Ukraine belonged in the EU. Former German defense minister saying they are one of us and we want them in. And for all of our viewers out here, Globsec is a Slovak-based organization where Slovakia's Prime Minister Edward Heger has been arguing in favor of this special track toward the EU and said, they fight for themselves, they fight for us, they fight for freedom. So Gana, obviously you've had some other candidate countries, Albania, North Macedonia, Serbia, Turkey, just to name a few who have been on the sidelines right now. Obviously, this is a bit of a photo op. How much of this is show, and what is the likelihood in the long term that Ukraine will be granted either immediate or long-term EU membership?
This is a very good question, and for those who actually know how the European Union works and how the procedures in the European Union works, we are hopeful, but we are also reserved. I've also been listening to many statements by the European officials and by Joseph Borrell and head of the Commission, and I think that they are also saying that over time Ukraine is accepted, and that now it's not the time to talk about it. Now it's time to stop the fighting. I don't think that the fast track candidate status, yes, but fast track candidate membership, I assume as long as we have bombing in Ukraine, it's not impossible. It's not possible in anyhow. I know that the support. There were many countries whose leaders openly supported Ukraine's accession to the EU, but these countries are once again located on the eastern borders of European Union. I want to hear this from France. I want to hear this from Germany. I want to hear this from Spain, Portugal, and other member states. And this will be a tough negotiations for the Council. They will have to come with a unanimity on this topic, and that's why we as alumni are mobilizing our people in the member states and capitals. We will be calling on civil society organizations, on everybody in the European Union member states to come and help us to achieve this goal, to have Ukraine in as a part of European family to whom we belong. I don't.
Sorry again, if I could just respond to it. My reading of this right now is, somebody who's not a European, but who has lived in Europe for almost 7 or 8 years right now. I don't think you can argue how unified this crisis has brought Europe. And we're going to get to this question later of sort of, the transformation of Europe. But for all of our viewers out there on Global Tremors right now, Gana, it's exactly what you said, where, the majority of the primary support, advocating for this accelerated path, it's not necessarily so equal in the western part of Europe. And just a couple of quick lines. EU German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock sort of saying that this is a long-term, intensive, and far-reaching transformation process, sort of cooling expectations right now. And also, the comment out of the Elysee said, and I quote, "We must not be careful to make promises that we cannot keep." So, obviously, again, it's like those countries, especially Germany's complete 180 on security policy has doing it. But one thing that I think the Ukrainians have going for them is the on-point strategic communications, where people like yourself, the foreign ministry, the foreign ministers, ambassadors across, are really speaking with one voice and sort of putting a lot of pressure on it. So while you singled out those countries, what should Ukrainians, the average person like yourself, or what message should they be sending to Berlin, Paris, and Lisbon, that Ukraine is a European country and it deserves to be in the European Union?
I think that this message has been sent 8 years ago when we had the Euromaidan, and we were standing under the European flags for to have a country free of corruption, to have a country with a rule of law and respect for human beings and for citizens. We sent this message 8 years ago, and for 8 years we were we were receiving a lot of support. I'm working on EU-Ukraine cooperation programs, and the amount of assistance given to Ukraine was unprecedented. It was not given to any other country in the history of the European Union. It's just, of course, but everybody was reserved to say when Ukraine will join. They were saying 10 years, 20 years, oh, you're not ready, you're not ready. And now we are facing the situation when there is no other option. There is no other option. If Ukraine is not with the European Union family, Ukraine will not exist. And this is just the new reality. So I think that also knowing the European Union, and I really praise how quick they came together, how joint their actions are. Although it took a diplomatic fight to convince countries to switch SWIFT for Russia for a long time. Actually, it was not taken immediately. But I think that with every day that Ukraine is being bombed, European Union is getting stronger and united. So I think that this war will just really speed up a lot of procedures, change a lot of procedures, like COVID did. Nobody expected COVID, and the EU institutions had to adapt, had to change their voting procedures, had to change their provisions in their documents. The same way now, war is speeding up European integration inside the EU.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Gana, I think that's really insightful. And again, thank you for coming on. And it's just unbelievable as a Ukrainian member of, civic society who's based in the EU, that you're making this claim that just like COVID, that, this war is going to change up procedures on everything like that, and that it's been more unified. Again, let me just ask you one question that's really stood out with me right now. If we go back to the negotiations, one of the major requests from Russia is the demilitarization of Ukraine, right? The ability for Ukraine never to join NATO, which is, again, just an unacceptable opening position. From my perspective, at the end of the Cold War, countries like Ukraine and Poland were almost exactly the same in terms of economics. And you see, since Poland has joined the European Union, how much of the country has grown and jumped in leaps and bounds. For my reading of it is that membership for Ukraine in the European Union is almost more deadly for Putin than them being in NATO, because the one thing that President Putin is more afraid of is prosperity, freedom, rule of law, judiciary, freedom of the press. So, do you think that in addition to demanding the demilitarization of Ukraine, the Russian delegation might ask for the de-democratization of Ukraine?
Well, let me make a few points on what you said. First and foremost, I think that the question of demilitarization, it's the question that actually Ukrainian people should be asked for. So because I know that right now, I think the perspective of people who sit under bombs and perspective of people who are not under bombs in European cities and protected by NATO members are completely different. The only thing they want now is that it stops and their houses are not destroyed and their kids are alive and our parents are alive and everyone is alive. The question of demilitarization and what will happen, it has to be taken up to the national referendum and people has to say their voice on this. What about economic situation? I want to say that Ukraine was doing amazing economically. You cannot even imagine what entrepreneurial spirit we have, how many things have developed in the past 10 years in Ukraine, businesses. Our Ukrainian people are in the CEO of the global major businesses all over the world. We are a nation who does not beg. We are the nation who work hard, and we are not in Europe to beg. We're in Europe to be together with people, to work. We just want to have a normal life, prosperous life in our country. And I think that economically, when the war stops, when the shelling stops, when the Russian army and Belarusian troops are away from the country, people will come back and will restore the country, and we will glory again, and we will welcome all the foreigners who has been coming to Ukraine for all these years, and we're amazed. I have friends who were saying, oh, what we expected to see in Kiev would be like this Soviet Union houses, but it's a beautiful European capital. And it is. Nobody believed it. It's just those who have been to Kiev, those who have been to Kharkiv, they know that this is not Soviet cities. These are complete European cities, and these cities and everything in those cities were built by Ukrainians. My generation, Ukrainians, the generation of my parents, and it will be the same in the future.
Well, Gana, I think what really stands out thus far about it is not just sort of your reiteration of the entrepreneurial spirit of Ukraine, but what a quote here on Global Tremors. We are a nation who doesn't beg. We work hard. And for everybody here, I'm just going to give a very quick, tourism, a pro-tourism thing for Ukraine. I couldn't agree with you more. Whether it's Kiev, this is a lively city where people are friendly. It almost is sort of like the new Berlin in terms of all of the hipsters, coffee houses, restaurants, hot dog stands across it. And again, this idea that it's this bleak, dark, concrete city, like you have this idea in Russia. You go to Lviv, downtown, which was formerly part of the Habsburg Empire, Lemberg, and you go to sort of the main Platz, and it looks like mini Vienna. So, for everybody out there, I cannot agree with you more. Visit Ukraine. And, Gana, before we get to our last question, when everything calms down and glory is restored to Ukraine, there will be lines of planes, not just people coming in to sort of repay the favor and to sort of express and show our gratitude for your efforts. Gana, you're a European expert by training. You're working at College of Europe, one of the top universities. My last question for you here on Global Tremors is, how much, in your opinion, has Europe changed with Russia's invasion? Because, we right now, it's kind of hard to take sense of it as we're living through it, right? And we spoke on Sunday with a German, and there's a great word, a Zeitenwende, which is like a turning point in time. So, for you, what does Europe mean now for you since what happened on Thursday?
Thank you very much. Yes, I want really to see everyone in Kiev once it's over, and I can't wait to be in Kiev myself. And I just want to say that the change is tremendous. I think for many people still they live their ordinary lives and they just hear something on the news. And those who don't watch the news, they don't hear anything. But I'm now also walking here. I'm now in Dublin, and I'm also joining the demonstrations organized by Ukrainian community in Dublin. And I see that other people are joining, Irish people are joining. I see Ukrainian flags on billboards and posters all over the city. I know that the government of Ireland has has opened its borders for Ukrainian citizens. There is no more need for visa, and they are welcoming people here. People are welcomed in all over Europe, and I think that once again, for those who had their certain stereotypes about Eastern European people, Eastern European women, Eastern European men, these stereotypes will be destroyed, and these stereotypes will be just changed. And I really hope that they will be changed for good. I really hope that all of our people can also show that they are really European in their mindsets, in their behavior, and Europe is not the same anymore. And I think that it will take a little bit of time for people to understand it as the more Western we go, because still here, those who are not exposed to this situation, they still don't know what the reality of this. But those who are disposed, they will be seeing the change. And I just know that I just really hope that this war will end very soon, and that we can start building the new European architecture.
Again, we're about to end off here, and before I sort of give my closing remarks, again, I really just want to sincerely thank you for coming on amidst very emotions running very high and a lot of bleak news. But the outpouring of support internationally, whether it's been sort of the average person on London interviewed yesterday saying that he was going to go to Ukraine and sign up for the International Legion, in the capital of Canada, Ottawa, to across Australia, national monuments lit up in blue and red, blue and yellow. So,
Yeah.
I mean, while it's great that we're standing with you, like there's still more we can do. This is everybody's fight. So just never give up. Slava Ukraina. And my real just main summary for everybody is, drop your stereotypes of Eastern Europe, of Ukraine. I mean, I'm coming from Canada, living in Slovakia and Austria, and have been everywhere. So like you said, these are Europeans. They're not Eastern Europeans. It's a unique idea. And this, again, I really hope that sort of this new version of the stereotype of Ukraine won't be of one of communist and negativity, but one of heroism, and one that kept Europe together. So again, as we end here on Global Tremors, if you have any last statements, feel free to drop them. And again, thank you so much for joining us right now.
Yes, thank you very much for this conversation. I know that I've been very emotional, but I'm just really, there are lots of things happening right now, and I'm really trying to do my best to help everyone, to be in touch with people, to be in touch with my parents, to make sure that they are safe, that my friends are safe, and to also to see how I and my skills can be helpful in this fight. I hope, I know that it will be all resolved, and we will be living in peace. This is my big hope. And I think I just want to end with the words. I had the pleasure to meet Otto von Habsburg in 2008 in Vienna, and he wrote in my notebook that we are all Ukrainians because Ukraine is Europe. And I think that this is the key message that I want to say. People, don't be indifferent. Help with everything you can. Do not be silent, and we just really hope for all this to end soon.
Well, again, we stand with you unconditionally. This is everybody's fight, and for everybody on Global Tremors, we'll be back hopefully a little bit later today, either commenting on Ukraine's EU membership perspective or just the absolute cratering of the Russian economy. So for everybody joining, stay tuned for the updates, which might be coming out live. Gana Slava Ukraina, and we'll see all of you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.